young pitchers early with the New York Mets. There was Gary Gentry, of course, Nolan, Jerry Koosman, myself, a lot of guys that could throw hard. But I think all of us recognize that Nolan probably had the most physical ability to throw the ball. I mean, it was really a very fine line with all of us. Koosman threw extremely hard. And when I was young, I was able to throw the ball fairly hard. But I think more than anybody else, we all felt that Nolan was the guy that could throw it the hardest.
Ryan's finest hour with the Mets came in the third game of the '69 World Series against Baltimore. In Game 3, the Mets took a 4-0 lead into the seventh. But starter Gary Gentry faltered, loading the bases with 2 outs. Manager Gil Hodges then summoned Ryan from the bullpen.
Now we're sitting here, we're in the third game of a World Series. It's even at 1-1. And, here comes Nolan Ryan out of the bullpen, and people are going, oh, my goodness, has Gil gone completely off his rocker? And all Nolan did was just completely shut him down.
Ryan earned a save and a game ball, but it didn't come easy. Tommy Agee's sensational catch stopped the Orioles in the seventh. And in the ninth, Ryan loaded the bases before fanning Paul Blair to end the game.
He got Paul Blair with 2 strikes and threw a curveball at Paul Blair, and Paul Blair's knees buckled. I mean, he just knew this was a fastball that was going to fix and kill him. And his knees just buckled, and the ball broke across the middle of the plate, and it was all over.
Ryan would enjoy other moments of brilliance as a Met, but on a staff dominated by Seaver and Koosman, he couldn't get the innings he needed to develop. In 1972, along with outfielder Lee Stanton and catcher Francisco Estrada and pitcher Don Rose, he was traded to the California Angels for shortstop Jim Fregosi.
Manager Del Rice gave Nolan the ball every 4th day and stuck with him. The steady work plus help with mechanics from pitching coach Tom Morgan resulted in a breakthrough season. Against the Red Sox, he struck out 8 consecutive batters. He won 19 games, tossed 9 shutouts, and led the American League in strikeouts with 329. His ERA was a glittering 2.28. Most impressive of all was the number he did on opposing hitters, holding them to a batting average of just 171. Ryan had arrived as one of the dominant pitchers in the game, and 1973 was to be his banner year. On May 15th at Kansas City, Ryan pitched his first Major League no-hitter, blanking the Royals 3-0. As always, he piled on the K's, and the Angels gave him all the defense he needed. Center fielder Bobby Valentine made a nice running grab. Shortstop Rudy Mioli's over-the-shoulder catch was the only close call. To prove that effort was no fluke, Ryan came back on July 15th and no-hit the Detroit Tigers 6-0. On this day, Ryan was truly awesome. His first pitch was a sharp breaking curveball that hit umpire Ron Luciano in the shin. When Nolan has this kind of stuff, the batters are simply overmatched. He struck him out looking. He struck him out swinging. He fanned him with a heat. He got him with a curve. It was no contest as Nolan Ryan rang up 17 strikeouts.
He was so overpowering that day, and it was the last man to come to the plate that always sticks out in my mind, and that was the late Norm Cash. Somewhere he went back into underneath the stands or somewhere at Tiger Stadium and came to the plate with a piano leg. And that was it. Instead of a bat, he had a piano leg. And I mean, that's how much in command and how much of a joke that the Tigers were making of it. They said, this guy is just, he's unhittable.
Umpire Luciano made Cash use a real bat, but piano leg, table leg, or Louisville slugger, it made no difference as Cash went down to end the game.
A record time strikeout performance. Here it comes. He pops it up. A tough play. No-hitter, Nolan Ryan. Ryan has...
Of all the no-hitters, I think that one by far was the most dominating. I had probably the best curveball and command of my fastball in that game, more so than, say, any of the others.
As the year progressed, Nolan piled on the wins and piled on the strikeouts, and some important records were within reach.
I think that my principal goal is to win 20 games, but if I can win 20 games and also set a new strikeout record, I'm definitely going to try.
Rube Waddell's American League mark of 349 Ks fell against Texas, and catcher Jeff Torborg's glove was lost in Boston.
We were in Boston And it was very close to the end of the season, and Nolan was pitching, and there was a runner at third base, and all of a sudden he fires a high fastball just up around my shoulder height. I felt it hit the glove, and I hear the crowd roar, and the runner starts at the plate, and I look in my glove. He had thrown it right through the webbing. It broke right through and hit the backstop on a fly. My concern at that point was not that the runner had scored, but what had happened if it were right in front of me. You know, I'd be speaking through my chest.
In September, Nolan beat Minnesota for his 20th win. But going into his final start, once again facing the Twins, he was 15 strikeouts shy of Sandy Koufax's Major League season record of 382 Ks. In the beginning, it didn't look like Ryan would make it past the first inning, as the Twins got to him for 3 quick runs. But Nolan steadied, and his awesome competitive fire began to burn. The 11th inning would be it. With 2 outs and Rich Reese at the plate, Nolan summoned all his strength. Fastball swung on and missed, strike 3. The record was Ryan. A spectacular accomplishment made all the more remarkable when you stop and consider 1973 was the first year of the designated hitter.
When you talk about a guy that has set the all-time season record for strikeouts, just the physical ability and the physical stamina that he showed in the season that he struck out 383 men is really incredible.
Ryan finished the year at 21-16, and in a remarkable display of power and consistency, he struck out 10 or more in a game, a record 23 times. Was Nolan the fastest gun in baseball? Well, in 1974, scientists from Rockwell International decided to find out. At the time, it was generally accepted that Bob Feller held the speed record with a clocking of 98.6 miles per hour done by the U.S. Army. So breaking the record would be a tall order indeed. To clock Ryan's pitches, the Rockwell technicians set up a battery of sophisticated measuring equipment. Once again, Nolan came through in the clutch. In the 9th inning on a 3-2 fastball to B.B. Richard, he was clocked at 100.9 miles per hour. The fastest pitch ever thrown. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. You can look it up.
On September 28, 1974, Nolan joined the short list of pitchers with 3 career no-hitters as he shut out the Twins. Playing for a last-place team, he wound up the year with 22 wins. And get this, 3 times he struck out 19 in a game, finishing the year with 367 Ks. On June 1st, 1975, at Anaheim, Ryan no-hit Baltimore to join Sandy Koufax as the only 2 pitchers with 4 no-hitters. The legend continued to grow.
I was riding to the bus in one of my first years in the major leagues, and Oscar Gamble was with us with the Cleveland Indians. We were riding in the bus, and the marquee outside of Anaheim Stadium said, pitching today for the Angels, Nolan Ryan. And Oscar saw the sign along with everybody on the bench, and he said, uh-oh, good day today is 0 for 4 and don't get hit in the head. And, you know, that was kind of the sentiment, just take your 0 for and get out of there.
Pitchers with this kind of stuff, you know, can do most anything they want to do, you know. If he got great stuff, you know, he's going to go out there and beat your ball game 1-0. He's going to go out there and probably pitch a no-hitter.
After 8 record-setting seasons with the Angels, Nolan Ryan returned to the National League in 1980. He signed a free agent contract with the Houston Astros, and in the process became baseball's first $1 million man. Nolan Ryan had come home.
To be able to live at home year-round, I felt like for my family's sake that it was probably for the best interest of them.
A year later, as the Astros battled the Los Angeles Dodgers for the Western Division title, baseball's top gun notched another record in his belt. On September 26th in the Dome, with a national television audience hanging on every pitch, Ryan pitched his record 5th no-hitter, shutting out the Dodgers 5-0.
The stage was set for him with a Saturday afternoon game late in the season against the Dodgers, the team we were contending for in the West for the 1981 split season, strike-shortened season title. And NBC was covering the game, and he just took over.
In the 7th inning, Dodgers catcher Mike Scioscia sent a ball deep to the right center field alley. But Astros outfielder Terry Poole made a fine running catch. Otherwise, Ryan dominated. In the 9th inning, with a crowd roaring on every pitch, he fanned Reggie Smith. Then he got Ken Landreau to ground out. The final batter was the dangerous Dusty Baker. The count was 2-2. Ryan tossed Baker a curveball, and Baker shot a grounder to third.
I hadn't had a ground ball yet, and I'm thinking, man, I better not boot this thing if it comes to me. And Dusty Baker was hitting, and sure enough, here comes a ground ball to me, and I treated it like a hot potato. I got rid of it as quickly as I could. I didn't want to hold on to it too long.
It was the first opportunity that my mother got the chance to see one of the no-hitters as she was in the stands that day, and so there were some special things about it that didn't happen in the other ones.
Ryan won his 200th game on July 22nd, 1982. And now looming on the horizon was another of baseball's most famous standards, Walter Johnson's Major League career record, 3,508 strikeouts. The Ryan Express was chasing the big train, and it would be like a bullet train racing a steam locomotive. No contest. On April 17, 1983, Andre Dawson of the Montreal Expos became victim 3,500. 10 days later at Montreal's Olympic Stadium, Ryan would get the record. In the 8th inning, he struck out Tim Blackwell to tie Johnson. The next batter was pinch hitter Brad Mills. Strike one. Strike two. Ball one. A backdoor curveball. Strike three.
I got a lot of personal satisfaction out of that because when I broke into baseball, that was one of the records they thought would never fall, as they thought Babe Ruth would.
For Ryan, the record signified both durability and command of his pitches. He could still bring the heat, but he was much more than a one-trick pony.
A lot of people talk about Nolan Ryan being able to throw hard. What they forget about is the fact that he had one of the most vicious curveballs ever shown in the game of baseball. So could you imagine hitting off a guy who can throw the ball as hard as he does and then have to worry about him having an outstanding curveball to go along with it?
Ryan continued to write his name in the strikeout ledger, posting his 4,000th K in July of 1985.
That was against the Mets here in the Dome, and it was against Danny Heap. And I think the ironic part of that was I was out doing my running prior to warming up in the game that night, and Danny was in the lineup, and he was out doing his sprints and getting loose, and he came by me and says, "You're not getting me tonight for 4,000. And lo and behold, who comes to the plate was Danny, and then he chased the curveball down for strike three. And I think I got more satisfaction out of that than I did the Johnson record, because then when I broke Johnson's record, 4,000 was furthest thing in my mind, and I really didn't think that, well, I just didn't anticipate playing long enough to do that.
And as if things weren't tough enough for National League hitters, Ryan perfected a changeup to go with his fastball and curve.
And his changeup is like it's like an 87-mile-an-hour screwball. He threw a pitch one time. The hitter was Jason Thompson, Pittsburgh, 3-2. He threw him about 5 or 6 straight fastballs, all in the upper 90s. Then he threw him a changeup on 3-2. Thompson was so far out in front of the pitch that he threw his bat, and it landed out in the Pirates' dugout. And after the game, I asked the guy with the radar gun how fast the pitch was, and he said it was 87 miles an hour. Well, can you imagine? Most guys don't throw their fastball that fast.
On the mound, Ryan was a study in concentration, a stoic, fierce competitor. But occasionally, he'd show a lighter side. Astros battery mate Alan Ashby remembers Ryan's impromptu imitation of Cincinnati's pitcher Brad Leslie, a man known as the Animal.
And he would, every time he'd strike somebody out, he'd go out there and just yell after the strikeout. And Nolan had watched about enough of it, and he decided he was going to do it. And the last person on earth you would ever expect to do that was Nolan Ryan. And he went and struck somebody out and just came off the mound and yelled. And both teams, both benches, totally fell out laughing. And it's the sort of thing that if anybody else had done, I think the other team would have taken offense to. But they fell out laughing and applauded him, and the game went on.
Those who know Nolan well all speak of his sense of humor. But this is a man who would rather entertain the fans with his pitching than with jokes. During Ryan's days with the Astros, everyone knew he could pitch, but he wasn't much of a hitter. In fact, he once went 42 trips without a hit, but he did hit a couple of home runs. You could look it up. As the 80s drew to a close, Ryan neared the allegedly untouchable total of 5,000 strikeouts. Most people, Ryan included, probably thought that historical moment would occur in an Astros uniform, but they were wrong. At age 42, starting his 23rd season in the majors, Nolan Ryan found himself headed back to the American League with a new address, Arlington Stadium, home of the Texas Rangers. Unable to reach a new agreement with the Astros, Ryan became a free agent after the '88 season and signed with Texas.
I'm excited about the Rangers. It gives me an opportunity to stay in Texas, play with a ball club that is going to be very competitive, and have my family in a situation that I think is the most workable situation for us.
And with Nolan Ryan leading the way, the Rangers got out of the gate quickly, playing aggressive, exciting baseball. The heat was on.
When he's on, Ryan is almost unhittable. He throws a rising fastball that seems to hop over hitters' bats. His curveball seems to fall off the end of a table. Is it real or is it illusion? How does Ryan make major league hitters look so bad? Well, elementary, my dear Watson, it's scientific. Robert Adair, the Sterling professor of physics at Yale, explains.
It's like many things. Anytime you try to explain something complicated simply, you always lie a little. But here is a way of thinking about it. As the ball goes through the air, the force, resistive force on the ball increases as the velocity increases, indeed about as a square. So as the ball goes twice as fast, the resistive force is 4 times as large, approximately. Now let's say the ball is spinning, and we'll have a Mr. Nolan Ryan fastball, so the ball is spinning as it goes towards you like this. You can see as it goes through the air, the bottom of the ball is going faster through the air than the top. So the forces on the bottom of the ball are larger than the forces on the top of the ball. Ergo, the ball is pushed upwards by those forces. Let us say that you're all set for the regular, very fast, 90-mile-an-hour fastball of the ordinary pitcher. Now, Mr. Ryan's ball comes at the trajectory, starts out just the direction you're used to from this 90-mile-an-hour fastball. When the ball's half-foot from the halfway to the plate, Mr. Ryan's fastball will be about 1.25 inches higher. Well, that's not very much. When it's 15 feet from the plate, it'll be about 2 inches higher. By the time it crosses the plate, it'll be 4 inches higher and go hop right over your bat. So his fastball rises in comparison with the trajectory of an ordinary fastball. The Nolan Ryan curveball is much more of a drop than a sideways, and tactically, that's what major league pitchers want to throw, the ball so that it drops. And Valley will have maybe 1,400, maybe even a little more, revolutions per minute in just the opposite direction. So instead of curving 5 inches up, it will curve even more downwards. It'll curve more downwards because it'll be going slower. And the batter who's waiting for the Nolan Ryan fastball, then that curve comes up, he's got big trouble.
Professor Adair knows physics, but Nolan knows pitching.
I grip all my pitches differently. A lot of people try to grip their pitches the same so they can take the sign with the ball behind their back and not have to worry about hiding it. I throw my fastball. I'm different from a lot of people is that I don't have real long fingers, and I throw the ball back in my hand. There's not a lot of gap there. I don't get it out on my fingertips like that. So I throw it like that, and I throw my fastball with all four seams. So when the ball comes off like that, it has a good tight rotation, and you want the ball to appear that it has a ride to it, or as you hear people say, a rising fastball. What it is, it just doesn't drop as fast as other ones. And so that's basically how I throw my fastball. Sometimes if I want to try to run it in on a hitter, I'll throw it with a two-seam fastball. And because of the way it comes out, you'll get more movement on the ball, either in or in on a right-hander or away from a left-hander. Now, I don't throw a slider, but I throw a curveball, and I choke it a lot like that in my hand. And this finger here just lays on the ball. There's no pressure on it. Your pressure points are on this finger here and on your thumb. And the only difference in a fastball release and a breaking ball release is your wrist position. People think you twist your wrist and snap the ball, but you don't. On a fastball, the ball comes through like this. On a curveball, the only difference is you turn your wrist. And it comes out on a curveball, it comes out like this. Where on a fastball, it comes out with your hand behind it like this. So it's just your wrist position, curveball, to a fastball. Now my changeup, I learned to grip on it. I always had a problem with my changeup throwing it too hard and being inconsistent. Changeup needs to be 10 to 15 miles an hour slower than the velocity on your fastball. Really, it needs to be 15 below, but if you throw it down at 10 miles an hour, it's very effective. So I use it as a rule of thumb. It has to be below 10 miles an hour, and it has to be down by the knees. And I throw mine what they call a circle change, and I hold it like that, where this finger isn't even on the ball, and I hold it tight. And the ball comes out of my hand. You throw it with your position the same, your wrist position as a fastball. And when it comes out, it comes off like this. And my middle finger here is the last release point on the ball. Well, I put it on this seam to try to get it to come out that way. So what it has is this type of rotation. And what it'll do is it'll also sink and act kind of like a screwball to a left-hander. And it's been a very effective pitch for me, and it's gotten better and better.
Now, fortunately, most of us will never have to face a Nolan Ryan fastball or try to get a bat on one of his wicked curves. But we thought you might want to actually feel the heat. So we rigged up a special Ryan cam to let you experience the sensation. What do you think? Those major league hitters earn their money when they bat against Nolan. Talking about Nolan Ryan's pitches is easy. As American League hitters discovered, the hard part is hitting them. Nolan fan Bo Jackson 6 straight times before Bo finally connected and sent a Ryan fastball flying back to the center field bleachers. On June 14th, facing California for the first time, Ryan became the 6th major league pitcher in history to beat all 26 major league teams. In his next appearance, the '89 All-Star game, Ryan got another win. He pitched 2 scoreless innings, struck out 3, and became the oldest winning pitcher in All-Star game history. On August 10th, facing Detroit at Arlington Stadium, Ryan again flirted with his 6th no-hitter. This time, Dave Bergman played the spoiler's role in the 9th inning.
But Nolan Ryan's near no-hitters, exciting in their own right, seem secondary to the main storyline for 1989, strikeouts. By mid-August, Ryan was rapidly closing in on 5,000 career Ks. Research books flew open. Statisticians and sabermetricians took to the microfilm and the microfiche. Baseball folks put the pencil to every strikeout Nolan Ryan had ever recorded. What did they find?
Alphabetically, Ryan had whiffed players from A, Hank Aaron, to Z, Paul Zuvella. He had struck out 19 Hall of Famers and 44 league MVPs. The father and son tandems Ryan had faced and fanned included the Alomars, Sandy and Roberto, the Bonds, Bobby and Barry, the Franconas, Tito and Terry, the Griffeys, Ken and Ken Jr., the Schofields, Dick and Dick Jr., and the Wills, Maury and Bump. Ryan's strikeouts included a Porter, a Cooper, a Baker, a Miller, and a Doc. He set down a bird, a bass, a boa, a deer, a moose, and a penguin. His victims included Law and Orta. He fanned a king, a duke, an earl, and a count. Ryan got the best of 1 blue, 3 greens, and 4 whites. He left everyone seeing red. And finally, research showed the answer to the trivia question, who was Nolan Ryan's first strikeout victim? September 11th, 1966, Atlanta Braves pitcher Pat Jarvis. Ryan's date with destiny came down to August 22nd, 1989 at Arlington Stadium against the Oakland A's. The Dallas-Fort Worth area hummed with excitement. Baseball Commissioner A. Bartlett Giamatti flew in for the historic occasion and watched the game with Rangers managing general partner George W. Bush. The eyes of the baseball world were on Texas.
I think I probably felt more anxiety going into that game than probably any other game that I can really recall, because everybody came there, the build-up, the fact the stadium was sold out, and I knew a lot of people had come a long ways to see that event, and I needed 6 strikeouts, and the last thing I wanted to do was have a disappointing performance and not accomplish that. And not that I was anticipating that, but I think looking at things realistically, that I'd have been devastated if I hadn't accomplished it that night.
Needing 6 strikeouts to reach 5,000, Ryan swiftly went to work. In the first inning, he K'd Jose Canseco with a curve. In the second inning, he buzzed a 95-mile-per-hour fastball past Dave Henderson and got Tony Phillips to chase an 0-2 curve. In the third inning, Ricky Henderson swung through a 93-mile-an-hour fastball. Then on a 1-2 count to Ron Hasse, Ryan smoked a 96-mile-per-hour heater. All Hasse could do was watch. Hasse had been number 4,999. The only question remaining was which of his teammates would be next. Leading off the 5th for Oakland was Ricky Henderson, a perennial all-star, one of the most exciting, explosive players in the game. Ryan started him off with 95-mile-an-hour smoke. Outside corner at the knees, strike one. Then came a 94-mile-an-hour fastball on the outer half, strike two. For a franchise that had moved to Texas nearly 2 decades earlier and in the interim had little to brag about, the moment had come. Ryan, going for the jugular, fired a belt-high fastball on the outer edge. He missed 1-2. Then he snapped off a curve that sailed just wide, 2-2. As light flashes showered the Texas sky, Henderson fouled the next pitch, a fastball back. Then he laid off a Ryan curveball that didn't bite, and it came in a bit tight, a full count. Reaching back a bit extra, Ryan came in with his money pitch, the big heat.
Third full count in a row for Ryan. Here's the payoff pitch. He struck him out swinging. Strikeout number 5,000 is history for Nolan Ryan.
It came down with Ricky being the quality hitter that he is, that I had to make the pitch I wanted, and it was a fastball low and away, and from a pitcher standpoint, it was a perfect pitch.
And how did the fastest fastball pitcher of all time react? In true Ryan fashion, he simply doffed his cap. He accepted congratulations from his catcher and his infielders, but his actions made it clear he wanted to play ball. There was still a game to be won, though in fact Texas lost that night 2-0. But the final score wasn't the important number of the evening. 5,000 was.
It's a record that hopefully will be broken in baseball, but it's hard to imagine somebody doing it. And what a thrill. I was a 6-year-old kid at the same time I was a 43-year-old owner of the Rangers.
Ryan's last appearance came on September 30th at the Big A in Anaheim. He got a 3-hit shutout, 57th of his career, and his 16th win of the season, his most since 1982. And he got 300 strikeouts, bringing up Dick Schofield for the big one. It was a great moment, but there would be many more still to come. Nolan Ryan opened the 1990 season in his 4th decade in the major leagues with 5 innings of no-hit ball and a victory over the Toronto Blue Jays. The Express was in high gear as Ryan won his first 4 starts, including a 1-hit shutout of Chicago. Ryan simply overpowered the White Sox as he fanned 16, a 1-game Ranger record. And think about this. It was the 200th time he had struck out 10 or more in a game. Amazing. Simply amazing. But then disaster struck. Nolan developed a painful stress fracture at his lower back that hampered his pitching and put him on the disabled list. Some thought this might be the beginning of the end for the oldest player in the game. But once again, Nolan Ryan would dazzle the baseball world. On June 11th, he took the mound against the defending world champs, the Oakland A's. Ignoring the pain in his back, Ryan mowed down the A's with a lethal 2-pitch combo, fastball and changeup. In the first, Willie Randolph and Doug Jennings went down swinging. Ron Hasse struck out in the second, and Ricky Henderson fanned in the third. Through 7, Ryan had fanned 11, but more importantly, he had not given up any hits.
I think I was more concerned with going out and just not favoring my back and trying to just pitch my ball game and pitch as long as I could. And I think in the back of my mind, hopeful that my back didn't present a problem. And I think because of those circumstances, that probably the no-hitter itself I didn't give much thought to until the last couple innings.
5 times as a Ranger, Nolan had taken a no-hitter into the 8th inning, only to see it slip away. But this night would be different. In the 8th, it was 3 up and 3 down. For Nolan, the pitching was easy, but the waiting was tough. In the 9th, the fans were on their feet, and you could feel the electricity in the air. Ryan fanned pinch hitter Ken Phelps, which brought the ever-dangerous Ricky Henderson to the plate.
I'd gotten to that point, I was going to do everything within my power to go ahead and throw a no-hitter, and I threw a good curveball and he topped it. And he almost topped it just enough to make a base hit out of it, but Jeff Houston came in and made really, probably, I think, one of the plays in the game.
Now only Willie Randolph stood between Ryan and his 6th no-hitter.
And he was late on fastball, and he fouled it off down the right field line. And when he first hit it, I thought it was in the stands, but Ruben was able to come over and make a play, and I was quite relieved the game was over there.
And a date with destiny tonight for Nolan Ryan as he has thrown no-hitter number 6 against the Oakland A's.
then the way my teammates reacted and the way they swarmed me, that it's, I think that's what really made that special, was how involved and emotionally involved they got in the game. And so it was really an emotional moment for me, and I don't have many of those in baseball.
Ryan's sixth no-hitter was one of the great individual feats in the history of baseball. He had now pitched no-hitters in 3 different decades for 3 different teams. At 43, he was the oldest man to toss a no-hitter. The 6th no-hitter served to focus the eyes of the nation on Ryan's inexorable quest for yet another baseball milestone, 300 wins. Only 19 pitchers had attained it, and Ryan was determined to be the 20th. Oakland was win number 294, and with wins in 5 of his next 6 decisions, Ryan stood on the brink of 300 as he took the mound in front of a sellout crowd at Arlington Stadium to face the New York Yankees. Expectations were running high, but on this night, it was not to be. After throwing 141 pitches and fanning 9, Nolan was pulled in the 8th inning with the Yankees leading 7-3. The Rangers rallied to win 9-7 in 11 innings, but the storyline was still the quest for 300. Nolan's next start would come on July 31st in Milwaukee.
Going into the Milwaukee game, probably had more anxiety over that game than anyone the entire year.
Milwaukee's County Stadium was jammed with over 55,000 fans, and over 200 reporters were on hand to document the event. And as he has so many times in his career, Nolan Ryan rose to the occasion. Showing good command of his pitches, he struck out 2 in the 1st, 2 in the 5th, and 2 in the 7th. Going into the 8th inning, Ryan had fanned 8 and held the Brewers to 3 hits as the Rangers led 5-1. But the Ranger defense collapsed. Julio Franco committed a pair of errors, leading to 2 unearned runs. The gap was narrowed to 5-3. The defensive lapses cost Nolan a shot at a complete game. After 146 pitches, 25 in the 8th inning alone, Bobby Valentine pulled him with 2 out and 2 men on base. The Milwaukee crowd responded to Ryan's courageous effort with a spine-tingling standing ovation as he left the field. Reliever Brad Arnsberg, pitching the biggest game of his life, came on to finish out the inning and pick up the save.
You know, it wasn't a concern of mine whether I finished that ball game or not. My concern was winning the ball game, and as it turned out, it worked out just right.
Indeed, it did. Franco, the go to the 8th, was the hero of the 9th. Julio rocketed the first pitch he saw into the left field bleachers for a grand slam, closing the door on Nolan Ryan's 300th victory. The final score, Rangers 11, Brewers 3. With his 300th win in the record book, it seemed that Nolan had finally done it all. But on May 1st, 1991, he would once again push the envelope of athletic achievement. Pitching against Toronto, Ryan did the impossible, a 7th no-hitter as he shut out the Blue Jays 3-0. From the beginning, he had terrific command of his pitches.
We had gone over the hitters, and we were going to establish the curveball and the changeup early. And I think that by doing that, it made my fastball better as the game went on.
He fanned 1 in the 1st, and he struck out the side in the 2nd. He would finish the night with 16 Ks, 9 on fastballs, 6 on curves, and 1 on a changeup.
I had a good fastball the entire game and really kept my stuff the entire game. There wasn't one pitch that I was having trouble with, or sometimes you'll have a good curveball early but not later, but I maintained my stuff throughout the game.
Ryan's only anxious moment came in the 6th inning as Manny Lee lofted a soft fly ball to short center. But Ranger outfielder Gary Pettis got a great jump and made the catch look easy. In the 9th inning, the tension in the stadium was unbelievable. This was baseball history in the making, and the fans knew it. And Nolan Ryan had pitched too well to be denied.
When I went into that last inning, I knew I had 3 left-handers to face and that they were going to be tough outs, and they were all fast runners, and that I think that improves their chances of getting a hit. So I knew the 9th inning was going to be a tough inning.
After the first 2 hitters grounded out, the moment was at hand. 24-year-old Roberto Alomar came to the plate to face the 44-year-old Ryan. And on a 2-2 count, Ryan fanned Alomar with 93-mile-an-hour heat.
And the 2-2 pitch. He struck him out swinging. And hello, no-hitter, number 7. Sandy Alomar has struck out. And Nolan Ryan has done it again. No-hitter, number 7.
I felt like it was a good pitch, and it was up in the zone where I wanted to throw it. I had people ask me, well, when did you know you had a no-hitter? Well, I didn't know I had a no-hitter until Berto Alomar struck out and was the last out of the game.
How then do you measure a Nolan Ryan? Unquestionably, the Ryan Express is bound for the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. He's got the arm, he's got the numbers, he's got the respect.
Every time I stepped in the batter's box against Nolan Ryan, I always felt it was power against power, and appreciated and relished the privilege of facing a guy who I knew threw harder than anyone that ever breathed.
He has taken a God-given talent and through hard work harnessed it and developed its full potential.
Well, ability-wise, Nolan's as good a pitcher as ever put on a uniform. He not only throws his fastball faster than, his curveball breaks better than, and now he has a changeup that is the envy of all the baseballs.
He is a man true to his roots, a country boy who loves the land, cherishes his small-town values, and gives back to his community.
Nolan Ryan is a Texas hero. He is a guy who embodies all of what Texans believe in, which is hard work and family and faith.
He is a family man, a devoted husband and father, a man of integrity.
Talk about straight arrows. Nolan Ryan is the straight arrow of our time.
One day, Nolan will walk off the mound for the final time, and he will be missed. For Nolan Ryan is one of a kind.